Allow me to recount a chilling experience I had a few years ago in early December. I reside in a quaint town nestled in the scenic landscapes of New England, USA. Our house sits adjacent to a dense forest with a serene pond nearby and a charming hiking trail meandering through the woods. On this particular evening, my brother had invited his friends over for a gathering at our place. Since my cousin is practically our sister, she was also present. As darkness enveloped the surroundings, we felt compelled to embark on a walk along the trail. Earlier that day, C had made an intriguing discovery. The trail extended further than we had initially believed. Beyond the designated path lay a hidden trail, leading deeper into the woods. Intrigued, we decided to venture forth despite the late hour and encroaching darkness. As we trekked through the forest, following C's lead, some of our companions began expressing concerns about the unfamiliarity of the second trail. The absence of sufficient light and the potential risk of getting lost in the darkness weighed heavily on their mind. Additionally, the occasional bear sightings in the area added an extra layer of unease. Eventually, consensus prevailed, and we reluctantly agreed to turn back. However, my adventurous spirit yearned to explore the uncharted territory a little further. Reluctantly bidding the others farewell, I lingered behind for a while, hoping to catch a glimpse of the hidden wonders before retracing my steps. Walking in the direction of the path as I was instructed, I soon realized the impracticality of continuing alone. The darkness, thick and impenetrable, was an unwelcome obstacle, and I resolved to abandon my solo expedition. Determined to rejoin the group, I reversed my course and hurriedly retraced my steps. Eventually, I detected faint sounds emanating from the vicinity of my friends. Though I couldn't see them, the rustling of leaves under their feet assured me of their presence. I announced my return, expecting a response, but to my bewilderment, there was only an eerie silence. Not a whisper nor a murmur could be heard in response. With my acute hearing, I would have discerned even the slightest movement or departure. It was inexplicable. Growing increasingly perplexed, I fumbled for my phone, hoping to shed some light on the situation. Unfortunately, it was dead, and my frantic attempts to revive it proved futile. Desperate for illumination, I held out a glimmer of hope that even in its brief moments of life, the phone's screen would cast some illumination. As the screen flickered to life, I shone the feeble light ahead of me, only to find an empty expanse. Not a soul lingered in that densely forested, foreboding darkness. I even noticed that I had veered off the path leading back home. Fear gripped me as I grappled with the questions haunting my mind. Whom had I been following all this time? Where had the voices and footsteps that I believed to be my friends led me? In such surroundings, one would surely detect the sound of mischievous friends fleeing to create an illusion of solitude. But I heard nothing. To exacerbate matters, I noticed my own footprints trailing behind me, yet no trace of anyone else's. In a panic, I employed the faint light from my dying phone to retrace my steps, heading in the opposite direction of my footprints. My heart raced as I battled overwhelming fear. I was lost in the abyss of the dark woods, devoid of companionship, armed with only a feeble light. For what felt like an eternity, I navigated the enigmatic forest, wrestling with a full-blown panic attack. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios, and every rustle of leaves or distant sound sent shivers down my spine. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as I desperately sought an escape from the labyrinthine woods. After what felt like an eternity, a faint glimmer of hope emerged. In the distance, I heard my friends calling out my name. Energized by their familiar voices, I sprinted towards the sound, pushing myself beyond the limits of exhaustion. Finally, emerging from the dense foliage, I stumbled upon the comforting presence of my worried companions. Relief washed over me, and I shared my harrowing experience, recounting the inexplicable silence, the eerie darkness, and the sense of isolation I had endured. Back at home, I sought solace in sharing my ordeal with my family. However, their response was less reassuring than I had hoped. They questioned whether I had perhaps imagined the footsteps and voices, suggesting that the darkened environment and my own footsteps may have played tricks on my senses. But I knew deep within that what I had experienced was far more than mere imagination. There was an inexplicable presence, a sense of foreboding that I couldn't shake off. To this day, I am haunted by the events of that night. The woods hold an air of mystery, and I am reminded of the unseen forces that lurk within. Though skeptical minds may dismiss my encounter as a figment of my imagination, I am resolute in my conviction that something otherworldly transpired that fateful evening. The incident served as a reminder of the hidden depths and unexplained phenomena that coexist alongside our familiar world. From that night onwards, I approached the woods with a mix of caution and curiosity. The allure of the unknown continues to beckon me, urging me to explore the mysteries that lie beyond the familiar trails. But I tread carefully, mindful of the inexplicable forces that may lie in wait, ready to unravel the fabric of our understanding. If there are others who have experienced similar encounters in these woods, I implore them to come forward and share their stories. Together, we can unravel the enigma that shrouds this forest, and perhaps shed light on the unexplainable occurrences that persist within its depth. The truth awaits, just beyond the veil of our understanding, beckoning the curious and the brave to delve into the realm of the unexplained. As a child, I had a unique connection to the supernatural. My parents often observed me laughing and engaging with unseen entities, but I remained skeptical about the existence of ghosts. However, an experience during my childhood made me question my beliefs. At the age of 9, my family moved into a charmingly preserved 1950s house, complete with its original fixtures and bathrooms. The previous owner, who had constructed the house, had passed away there, likely from old age. Little did I know that this connection to the past would bring forth a series of peculiar occurrences. My bedroom, located in the original primary suite, possessed an eerie chilliness that persisted, even during scorching Texas summers. While my parents attributed it to the house's age and the shade cast by a towering oak tree in our backyard, I suspected there was more to it. Strangely, I began hearing distinct footsteps on the roof above my room, consistently heard only by me. Despite searching, we found no evidence of anyone or anything on the roof. These footsteps were inexplicably human, leaving my parents puzzled but dismissing them as mere animal activity. Undeterred, I attempted to capture the mysterious sounds by recording them, but my efforts proved futile. The footsteps defied detection, adding to the growing unease in our home. Concerned, my parents hired a contractor to inspect the roof above my room, hoping to uncover a rational explanation. To our surprise, the inspection yielded no conclusive findings, deepening the mystery surrounding the footsteps. The paranormal encounters escalated further when I began hearing footsteps in the hallway adjacent to my room. Startlingly, I would awaken in the dead of night to the sound of footsteps beside my bed, only to find no one there. I also witnessed the eerie opening and closing of closet doors, despite them being securely shut. Our alarm system, equipped with motion detectors in the hallway in my room, failed to register any movement during these incidents. As the haunting persisted, I encountered a chilling phenomenon when I turned off the light on my nightstand. In those fleeting moments, a clear image of a man's face lingered before me, akin to the lingering imprint of a bright light. It was an unsettling experience that left me pondering the true nature of the supernatural. Curiosity led me to explore more about ghosts, and I discovered that they often become attached to sentimental objects. It struck me that the original bathroom adjoining my room, adorned with my mother's hand-painted flowers, contained a recessed cavity used by men to dispose of razors. It seemed like the ideal object for a spirit to form an attachment. Motivated by my newfound knowledge, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wrote a heartfelt note, assuring the presence that we would cherish and care for the house, and placed it in the razor deposit. Remarkably, after this act, the footsteps ceased, the doors remained still, and the haunting apparitions vanished for a span of 12 years. Upon my college graduation, my parents made the decision to sell the house. During my final visit before their departure, as I settled in for the night, the distinct sound of footsteps on the roof returned, haunting reminder of the spirit that had lingered within those walls. Reflecting on the experience, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for the unknown entity. Despite the peculiar occurrences that had unsettled me during my childhood, there was an underlying sadness in the room that tugged at my empathetic nature. The spirit had formed a profound attachment to its beloved home, only to witness its complete transformation at the hands of the new owners. As I bid farewell to the house, I couldn't help but wonder about the ghost's fate. Would it find solace? As I bid farewell to the house, I couldn't help but wonder about the ghost's fate. Would it find solace in knowing that we had honored its dwelling, or would it be left adrift, disconnected from the place it had called home for so long? Years passed, and I often found myself reminiscing about the strange occurrences of my childhood. The memories had faded, but the sense of empathy I had developed for the ghost remained strong. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a lesson to be learned from our encounter, something beyond the realm of the supernatural. One day, while attending a local historical society event, I stumbled upon a collection of old newspaper clippings. As I skimmed through the brittle pages, my eyes widened in recognition. There, in faded ink, was an article about the previous owner of our old house. It detailed his life, his accomplishments, and the legacy he had left behind. It also mentioned his deep attachment to the house where he had spent his final days. Inspired by the newfound information, I embarked on a quest to uncover more about the man who had once resided in my childhood home. I reached out to local historians, searched through archives, and even connected with descendants of the previous owner. The stories that unfolded painted a vivid picture of a man who had cherished his home, nurturing it with love and care until the end of his days. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to honor the ghost's memory in a meaningful way. I collaborated with the Historical Society to organize an event dedicated to the history of our old neighborhood, highlighting the stories of the people who had lived there. I wanted to ensure that the spirit, once attached to the house, would not be forgotten as time marched on. On the day of the event, the community gathered, sharing anecdotes, photographs, and memories. I took the stage and shared my own supernatural encounter, revealing how the ghost had left an indelible mark on my life. As I spoke, I felt a comforting presence in the room, as if the spirit was there, acknowledging the homage being paid to its past. The event became an annual tradition, each year bringing new insights and stories about the people who had inhabited our neighborhood throughout history. The ghost, it seemed, had become a symbol of the enduring connections we have to our homes, our communities, and the memories that transcend time. As the years passed, the tales of the haunted house faded into folklore, but the spirit's presence lingered in our hearts. The house itself underwent transformations, welcoming new families who would create their own cherished memories within its walls. Looking back, I realized that the ghost had taught me a valuable lesson, that even in the face of the unknown and the inexplicable, empathy and understanding can bridge the gap between the living and the spectral. Our encounter had taught me to appreciate the deep ties we form with the places we call home, and to honor the memories of those who came before us. And so, as I reminisce about my childhood and the inexplicable occurrences that shaped my beliefs, I am grateful for the ghostly presence that once inhabited our house. It has instilled in me a profound respect for the spirits that dwell in the corners of our world, reminding me that even in the realm of the supernatural, compassion and empathy can transcend the boundaries of life and death. I used to work in a store that had a reputation for being haunted. According to my coworkers, they would hear the sound of heels clicking around the store at night, leading them to believe it was either a woman or a drag queen ghost. Personally, I didn't buy into any of the ghost stories, even when strange things happened. There was one incident where I closed the store at night and returned the next morning to find all the pet beds neatly lined up on the floor in a single aisle. Surprisingly, the alarm had never been triggered, despite the motion of the beds. Another time, I discovered a half-eaten candy bar on the floor that we didn't even sell. I brushed it off, thinking my coworkers were just playing tricks on me. But then something happened that made me question my skepticism. One night, while closing up with a coworker, we heard the sound of metal scraping against the floor. We went to investigate, thinking someone might have snuck into the store. However, there was no sign of anyone. We returned to our closing duties, and that was that. The following night, we heard the distinct sound of heels clicking down the hallway toward our back room. I mustered up the courage to confront the mysterious presence, but to my surprise, there was no one there. My coworker was terrified and refused to do her closing duties alone. Eventually, I left that job, but strange occurrences continued to happen in my own home. My roommate and I would find objects moved, and we would swear we hadn't touched them. One time, we heard a child's toy belonging to my roommate's kid playing music from under the couch. We moved the couch to investigate, only to find that there were no batteries in the toy. We also heard the distinct sound of heels clicking around our apartment day and night, even though we had carpeted floors and cheap, plastic-like surfaces that didn't make such sounds. My roommate was convinced that we had a ghost, and I started to believe it too after all these experiences. I moved to a new place with my newlywed husband, hoping to leave the ghostly encounters behind. However, to our surprise, objects would mysteriously fall off tables and shelves. I would also hear the familiar sound of heels clicking around the apartment, even though our new place had carpeted floors that shouldn't make such noises when I walked with heels. Now, I have moved back to my hometown and settled into a nice apartment. However, just this morning, I noticed something strange on my door camera. My shoes appeared to have been moved, completely pivoted in a different direction. The placement of the shoes together hadn't changed, but they were at a different angle, and my husband and I hadn't been near them. The motion video didn't show any actual movement, just that my shoes were suddenly not in the same place anymore. During the past weekend, while relaxing on the couch, we heard a loud banging noise coming from the pantry. Initially, we assumed our cat had been accidentally locked inside, but to our surprise, the cat came running from another room. When we opened the pantry, we discovered 2 cans of nearly expired manwich on the floor. These cans were previously upright on the shelf, tucked behind other cans that remained undisturbed. What baffled us even more was the fact that the cans were on the bottom shelf, so their fall should not have caused such a loud noise. At this point, I'm not sure if I should try to get rid of the ghost or not. The ghost seems to be aggressively friendly, giving me signs like the cans about to expire, and the unpleasant odor from my shoes that I hadn't noticed before they were moved. It's as if the ghost is trying to communicate in its own peculiar way. Despite the eerie occurrences, I can't help but feel that the ghost means no harm. In fact, its actions seem to be a form of peculiar goodwill, drawing attention to things that may need my consideration. The expiration of the cans in the pantry and the unpleasant odor from my shoes were signs that I would have overlooked if it weren't for the ghost's intervention. Perhaps, instead of being scared or annoyed, I should appreciate the ghost's presence and its strange attempts to help me. As I settle into my new apartment, I decide to embrace this supernatural companion. I even start talking to the ghost, expressing my gratitude for its peculiar assistance. Surprisingly, the ghostly activities seem to lessen, as if satisfied with being acknowledged and understood. Over time, I develop a strange bond with the ghost. I learn to interpret its signs and understand the underlying messages it tries to convey. It becomes a comforting presence, like a quirky roommate who watches over my home. As the years pass, I share stories of the ghost with my friends and family. Some find it hard to believe, dismissing it as mere coincidence or imagination. But those who have witnessed the ghost's subtle acts of kindness and guidance begin to see it in a different light. Eventually, I come to realize that the ghost has become an integral part of my life. It's no longer a source of fear or uncertainty, but rather a unique and cherished presence. It has taught me to pay attention to the little things, to appreciate the hidden messages and everyday occurrences. In a way, the ghost has become my silent mentor, guiding me through life's ups and downs. It reminds me to be mindful, to listen to the whispers of the universe, and to trust in the unseen forces that shape our existence. And so, in this ordinary life of mine, I continue to coexist with the friendly ghost. Together, we navigate the mysteries of the world, finding solace in the inexplicable and embracing the beauty of the unknown.